يا أيها الذين آمنوا إنما المشركون نجس فلا يقربوا المسجد الحرام بعد عامهم هذا وإن خفتم عيلة فسوف يغنيكم الله من فضله إن شاء إن الله عليم حكيم.
Believers, those who associate others with Allah in His divinity are unclean. So after the expiry of this year, let them not even go near the sacred mosque. And should you fear poverty, Allah will enrich you out of His bounty, if He wills. Surely, Allah is all-knowing, all-wise.
25. This prohibition was meant to root out all the vestiges of shirk and ignorance. For the mushriks were prohibited not only from the performance of Hajj and attendance at the Al-Masjid al-Haram but also from entering into its sacred precincts. They are unclean in their creeds, in their morals, in their deeds, and in their ways of ignorance, and not in their physical bodies by themselves. That is the reason why they have been prohibited from entering the sacred precincts of the holy place. This prohibition has been interpreted in different ways. Imam Abu Hanifa is of the view that it prohibits them only from the performance of Hajj and Umrah, and from the observance of the rites of ignorance in the holy precincts. But Imam Shafi'i is of the opinion that they have been forbidden even to enter the Al-Masjid al-Haram for any purpose whatsoever. Imam Malik is of the opinion that they are forbidden not only to enter Al-Masjid al-Haram but any mosque at all. It is, however, obvious that the last opinion is not correct, as the Prophet, peace be upon him, himself permitted mushriks to enter the Prophet's mosque at Al-Madinah.
قاتلوا الذين لا يؤمنون بالله ولا باليوم الآخر ولا يحرمون ما حرم الله ورسوله ولا يدينون دين الحق من الذين أوتوا الكتاب حتى يعطوا الجزية عن يد وهم صاغرون.
Those who do not believe in Allah and the last day, even though they were given the scriptures, and who do not hold as unlawful that which Allah and His Messenger have declared to be unlawful, and who do not follow the true religion, fight against them until they pay tribute out of their hand and are utterly subdued. Out of their hand and are utterly subdued.
26. Though the people of the book profess to believe in Allah and the hereafter, in fact they believed in neither. For only that person really believes in Allah who acknowledges Him as the only one God and the only one Lord, and does not associate with Him any other, whatsoever, in His being, in His characteristics, in His rights and in His powers and authority. But according to this definition of shirk, both the Christians and the Jews were guilty of shirk, as has been made plain in the verses that follow. Therefore their profession of belief in Allah was meaningless. Likewise they did not really believe in the hereafter, in spite of the fact that they believed in resurrection. For it is not enough, one must also believe that on that day absolute justice will be done on the basis of one's belief and actions. One should also believe that no ransom and no expiation and no spiritual relationships with any saint shall be of any avail on that day. It is absolutely meaningless to believe in the hereafter without this. And the Jews and the Christians had polluted their faiths because they believed that such things would protect them against justice on that day. 27. The second reason why jihad should be waged against them is that they did not adopt the law sent down by Allah through His Messenger. 28. This is the aim of jihad with the Jews and the Christians, and it is not to force them to become Muslims and adopt the Islamic way of life. They should be forced to pay jizya in order to put an end to their independence and supremacy, so that they should not remain rulers and sovereigns in the land. These powers should be wrested from them by the followers of the true faith, who should assume the sovereignty and lead others towards the right way, while they should become their subjects and pay jizya. Jizya is paid by those non-Muslims who live as zimmis, protégés, in an Islamic state, in exchange for the security and protection granted to them by it. This is also symbolical of the fact that they themselves agree to live in it as its subjects. This is the significance of they paid the tribute out of their hand, that is, with full consent, so that they willingly become the subjects of the believers, who perform the duty of the vicegerents of Allah on the earth. At first this command applied only to the Jews and the Christians. Then the Prophet, peace be upon him, himself extended it to the Zoroastrians also. After his death, his companions unanimously applied this rule to all the non-Muslim nations outside Arabia. This is jizya, of which the Muslims have been feeling apologetic during the last 2 centuries of their degeneration, and there are still some people who continue to apologize for it. But the way of Allah is straight and clear and does not stand in need of any apology to the rebels against Allah. Instead of offering apologies on behalf of Islam for the measure that guarantees security of life, property and faith to those who choose to live under its protection, the Muslims should feel proud of such a humane law as that of jizya. For it is obvious that the maximum freedom that can be allowed to those who do not adopt the way of Allah but choose to tread the ways of error is that they should be tolerated to lead the life they like. That is why the Islamic State offers them protection, if they agree to live as its zimmis by paying jizya, but it cannot allow that they should remain supreme rulers in any place and establish wrong ways and impose them on others. As this state of things inevitably produces chaos and disorder, it is the duty of the true Muslims to exert their utmost to bring to an end their wicked rule and bring them under a righteous order. As regards the question, what do the non-Muslims get in return for jizya? It may suffice to say that it is the price of the freedom which the Islamic State allows them in following their erroneous ways, while living in the jurisdiction of Islam and enjoying its protection. The money thus collected is spent in maintaining the righteous administration that gives them the freedom and protects their rights. This also serves as a yearly reminder to them that they have been deprived of the honor of paying zakat in the way of Allah, and forced to pay jizya instead as a price of following the ways of error.
وقالت اليهود عزير ابن الله وقالت النصارى المسيح ابن الله ذلك قولهم بأفواههم يضاهئون قول الذين كفروا من قبل قاتلهم الله أنى يؤفكون.
The Jews say, Ezra, Uzair, is Allah's son, and the Christians say, the Messiah is the son of Allah. These are merely verbal assertions in imitation of the sayings of those unbelievers who preceded them. May Allah ruin them. How do they turn away from the truth?
اتخذوا أحبارهم ورهبانهم أربابا من دون الله والمسيح ابن مريم وما أمروا إلا ليعبدوا إلها واحدا لا إله إلا هو سبحانه عما يشركون.
They take their rabbis and their monks for their lords apart from Allah, and also the Messiah, son of Mary, whereas they were commanded to worship none but the one true God. There is no God but He. Exalted be He above those whom they associate with Him in His divinity. They take their rabbis and their monks for their lords apart.
31. They have taken their rabbis and monks as their lords. The Prophet, peace be upon him, himself explained its true significance. According to a tradition, when Adi bin Hatim, may Allah be pleased with him, who was formerly a Christian, came to the Prophet, peace be upon him, with the intention of understanding Islam, he asked several questions in order to remove his doubts. One of these was, this verse accuses us of taking our scholars and monks as our lords. What is its real meaning? For we do not take them as our lords. As a reply to this, the Prophet, peace be upon him, put him a counter question. Is it not a fact that you accept as unlawful what they declare to be unlawful, and lawful what they declare to be lawful? Adi confessed, "Yes, it is so." The Prophet, peace be upon him, replied, "This amounts to making them your lords." Incidentally, this tradition shows that those who themselves set limits to the lawful and the unlawful without the authority of Allah's book, assume for themselves the rank of Godhead, and those who acknowledge their right of making laws take them as their lords. It should be noted that they have been charged with a. Attributing sons to Allah, and b. Giving the right of making laws to others than Allah. These are to prove that their claim that they believed in Allah is false, even though they should believe in His existence. But such a wrong conception of Allah makes their belief in Allah meaningless.
يريدون أن يطفئوا نور الله بأفواههم ويأبى الله إلا أن يتم نوره ولو كره الكافرون.
They seek to extinguish the light of Allah by blowing through their mouths, but Allah refuses everything except that He will perfect His light, howsoever the unbelievers might abhor it.
هو الذي أرسل رسوله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله ولو كره المشركون.
He it is who has sent His messenger with the guidance and the true religion, that He may make it prevail over all religions, howsoever those who associate others with Allah in His divinity might detest it.
32. The Arabic word adin has been translated into ways. For the word deen, as has already been explained in EN 204, al-Baqarah, is used for the way of life or the system of life, which is followed in obedience to the supreme authority. Now let us try to understand the significance of this verse. The object of the mission of the messenger is to make the guidance and the right way he has brought from Allah dominant over all the other ways and systems of life. In other words, the messenger is not sent to allow Allah's way to remain subordinate to other ways in order to enjoy concessions from them. He is sent by the sovereign of the earth and the heavens to make his way dominant over all other ways. And if a wrong way is at all allowed to remain on the earth, it should be tolerated only under its own protection by the payment of jizya under the limits conferred by the divine system, as in the cast of the system of life of the Zimmis who paid jizya.
يا أيها الذين آمنوا إن كثيرا من الأحبار والرهبان ليأكلون أموال الناس بالباطل ويصدون عن سبيل الله والذين يكنزون الذهب والفضة ولا ينفقونها في سبيل الله فبشرهم بعذاب أليم.
Believers, many of the rabbis and monks wrongfully devour mankind's possessions and hinder people from the way of Allah. And there are those who amass gold and silver and do not spend it in the way of Allah. Announce to them the tidings of a painful chastisement.
33. These religious leaders are guilty of two sins. First, they devour the wealth of the common people by selling false decrees, and by taking bribes, gifts and presents on different pretexts. They invent religious regulations and rituals as tempt people to buy their salvations and fortunes in life from them and make deaths and marriages dependent on the payment of due price to these monopolists of paradise. To add to this another sin, they debar the people from the way of Allah by involving them into different sorts of deviations and by obstructing the way of every righteous mission with the obstacles of learned doubts and pious suspicions.
يوم يحمى عليها في نار جهنم فتكوى بها جباههم وجنوبهم وظهورهم هذا ما كنزتم لأنفسكم فذوقوا ما كنتم تكنزون.
On a day when they shall be heated up in the fire of hell, and their foreheads and their sides and their backs shall be branded with it, and they shall be told, "This is the treasure which you hoarded for yourselves. Taste then the punishment for what you have hoarded."
إن عدة الشهور عند الله 12 شهرا في كتاب الله يوم خلق السماوات والأرض منها 4 حرم ذلك الدين القيم فلا تظلموا فيهن أنفسكم وقاتلوا المشركين كافة كما يقاتلونكم كافة واعلموا أن الله مع المتقين.
Surely, the reckoning of months in the sight of Allah is 12 months, laid down in Allah's decree on the day when He created the heavens and the earth. And out of these months, 4 are sacred. That is the true ordainment. Do not therefore wrong yourselves with respect to these months, and fight altogether against those who associate others with Allah in His divinity, in the manner that they fight against you all together. And know well that Allah is with the God-fearing.
34. This means that ever since Allah created the sun, the moon and the earth, the new moon takes place only once in a month. Thus the year has always been of 12 months. This has been mentioned to refute the practice of Nasi, Ayat 37, whereby the pagan Arabs increased the number of the months of a year to 13 or 14 to enable them to interpose in the calendar the forbidden month which had been made lawful by them. 35. So do not wrong yourselves in them. Do not let go waste the good things for which fighting has been made unlawful during these months by creating disorder in them that will ultimately be harmful to you also. The 4 forbidden months are Zilqa'dah, Zilhajjah and Muharram for Hajj and Rajab for Umrah. 36. That is, if the mushriks do not desist from fighting during these months, you should also fight them and present a united front against them, just as they put up a united front against you. This verse has been explained by Ayat 194 of Al-Baqarah.
إنما النسيء زيادة في الكفر يضل به الذين كفروا يحلونه عاما ويحرمونه عاما ليواطئوا عدة ما حرم الله فيحلوا ما حرم الله زين لهم سوء أعمالهم والله لا يهدي القوم الكافرين.
The intercalation of sacred months is an act of gross infidelity, which causes the unbelievers to be led further astray. They declare a month to be lawful in one year and forbidden in another year, in order that they may conform to the number of months that Allah has declared as sacred, and at the same time make lawful what Allah has forbidden. Their foul acts seem fair to them. Allah does not direct those who deny the truth to the right way.
37. The pagan Arabs practiced Nasi in 2 ways. Whenever it suited them, they would declare a prohibited month to be an ordinary month in which fighting, robbery and murder and retaliation were lawful for them. Then they would declare an ordinary month to be a prohibited month instead of this month in order to make up for the deficiency caused in the number of the prohibited months. The other way of Nasi was the addition of a month in order to harmonize the lunar with the solar year so that the Hajj should always fall in the same season and they should be saved from the bother and inconvenience that are experienced by its observance according to the lunar year. In this way Hajj was observed for 36 years on dates other than the actual dates. Then in the 37th year it was again observed on the 9th and 10th of Zilhajjah, as they should have actually fallen according to the lunar calendar. It so happened that on the occasion when the Prophet, peace be upon him, performed Hajjatul Wida, his last Hajj, these dates by rotation coincided with the actual dates of Hajj according to the lunar calendar. So he declared during the course of his historic address at Arafat, this year the dates of Hajj have again occurred exactly at their natural and proper time after a long period of circulation. Accordingly, since that last Hajj of AH9, it is being observed up to this day according to the correct dates of the lunar year. By making Nasi unlawful and forbidding it, the law declared that the two objects for which it was practiced were also sinful. First, they not only made lawful what Allah had made unlawful but also tried to practice deception on Allah by the seeming observance of the law. As regards the second object of making the season of Hajj fixed permanently according to the solar calendar, this too, was in fact the worst kind of rebellion against the divine law, although it appeared to be a harmless thing done for public good. But it defeated the very object of the divine law which prescribed the lunar calendar instead of the solar calendar for the observance of obligatory duties. Allah did this to ensure many good things for the Muslims, one of which is that his servants should be so trained as to obey his commandments at all times of the year and under all circumstances. For instance, the month of Ramadan circulates among all the seasons of the year and the Muslims get used to obeying his commandments whether it be summer or winter, dry or rainy season. This gives them that excellent moral training which is the real object of all the obligatory duties imposed by the divine law. Likewise, the dates of Hajj according to the lunar calendar fall during different seasons. Therefore the servants of Allah have to travel during all the seasons, favorable and unfavorable. Thus they come out successful in the divine test under all the circumstances and learn to be steadfast in their obedience. It is obvious that such a training will make them stand good in many other fields in which one has to fight the battle for the truth. Now it would have become quite clear why Nasi was made unlawful and forbidden. It was designed to fix the season of Hajj in order to suit their own conveniences, though it defeated the divine purpose of Hajj and of the forbidden months. It meant that they had rebelled against Allah and become independent of Him. This is kufr. Besides this, Islam is a universal religion and for all human beings. It is obvious that the periods of fasting and performing Hajj cannot satisfy all if they be fixed in accordance with the months of the solar year. For if they are performed in fixed months according to the solar year, the one and the same month will not equally suit all for the simple reason that it will fall during the same seasons in different places, summer or winter or very hot or very cold or rainy or dry or harvesting or sowing, year after year. In this connection it may also be kept in view that the proclamation about the prohibition of Nasi was made on the occasion of Hajj in AH9 and next year the Hajj was performed on right dates which were in accordance with the lunar year. Since that time Hajj is being performed according to exact dates.